Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM. Live from Boo Rays of New Orleans and Hudson Oaks, the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, with head coach Robby Jones, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
A pass play caught by Burdine, breaks a tackle at the 20. Running to the right, and he will walk it in. Touchdown, Aledo Bearcats, 37 yards. And that was one of the scores that the Bearcats had in the first half, where they rolled over Granbury by a score of 56-7. That game played back on October the 11th, and the Bearcats clinched a playoff berth with that win. We welcome you to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist, coming to you from Boo Rays of New Orleans and Hudson Oaks, back from the bye from last week. Of course, Boo Rays celebrating its 20th anniversary with locations not only here, but in Crowley and in Lake Worth. And we're also presented to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo, as well as Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. Bearcats are back in action this coming Friday, taking on the Richland Royals. This is a top 10 matchup. The Bearcats are number 1 at 6-1. Richland is at number 10 at 7-1. Those rankings just came out by Dave Campbell's Texas Football today. And the two streaks that kept it alive for the Bearcats in terms of their 56-7 win over Granbury. As I mentioned, the playoff berth that they clinched, 29th consecutive year that the Bearcats have clinched a playoff berth, and also the 31st consecutive year that Aledo has clinched a winning season. The Royals, by the way, have their 3-5A bye next week. The Bearcats will be taking this record of 124 consecutive district wins, that national record, into this coming Friday's game. Hank FM will have the call for you. Pre-game show is at 6:30. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock with Kyle Hicks, the Deacon, and yours truly. As always, we'll start our first segment with head coach Robby Jones, and we'll get his view of how the Bearcats took place with their bye, how they handled things. Then we'll be joined by two playmakers, national running back 2026 recruit Ray Gullory, as well as 2026 safety and punt return specialist Lamel Swanson. All right, Coach, first of all, welcome back from the bye. Did you enjoy it? Was it nice to just kind of get away for a couple of days?
It was, but then, we want to get back out on the field and start preparing for somebody. We, took the bye week as, to work on ourselves. We did a lot more individual work. Then we also did some outside hull against each other, a little best-on-best type situation. But, it's good to get back on the field today and start preparing for a game.
All right, let's talk a little about quickly this putting this 56-7 win over Granbury, since that was nearly 2 weeks ago. You appeared to make an emphasis on the vertical passing game, or at least that was the impression that we got from it. But getting Caden Finley, Blake Burdine, and Jamel Hollister involved, just what was kind of the approach of looking at that game and what you all wanted to establish there?
We knew going in that we could take some shots against those guys, so that was kind of what we did. The last touchdown to Finley was actually a run play with an RPO, and it read right away, pre-snap, to pull the ball and throw that ball to Finley. So, we just basically took what they were giving us, and they were giving us some of those deep balls.
As this season has matured, to what extent is it important to get that third receiver like Hollister involved? Because I would think, you're going to see different coverages. You're going to see the way teams are going to attack you. They're going to probably they're going to bracket Finley for sure. Sometimes they might do something different in terms of putting a linebacker or a spy on Blake. And so, with Jamel having that third receiver, what was that game like for him, just in terms of his development, his confidence, and knowing that you can go to him, here and there and make him a threat?
We've known we can go to him. It's just, that hasn't been the case this season for whatever reason. And we are going to run into some situations where people are going to double cover Caden, but we feel like we've got, not just Blake and Jamal, but we've got other receivers that we can put in the game, and we can go to those guys. So we got no problem with that. And then also, when they have to concentrate on a receiver like Caden, that's going to help open up the run game as well.
And we'll talk about this when Ray joins us here in a few minutes, about having him being that pass-catching threat, because that finally started to become a thing here the last couple of weeks. But to his point, in that game, 161 yards, 2 touchdowns, and there's nothing short of running with confidence and playing with confidence. What was different, what you've seen with him in the last couple of weeks, especially with what you saw against Ryan?
We've always, had a lot of confidence in going to Caden. So, none of that has changed. It's just, I think having Gavin out there has been big for him because of the combination of those two and the connection that they've had for a long time. Has just been really good for him as far as, being able to get the ball to him, and that's been, a really big part of it is, having somebody out there that just feels so comfortable throwing the ball to him.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why you've seen the numbers, kind of jump up a little bit is, the fact that he has that connection with Gavin.
Yeah, and the way Gavin has played, he's been so efficient, just few incompletions here and there. Is it a matter that he's so locked in that he's reading the field so well, or what are you seeing here in the last few weeks?
Yeah,
the competition has something to do with it too.
Yeah,
but
a little bit of the competition, but then you got to throw Ryan in there. But he is going through his progressions. He's doing a good job of doing what he's coached to do. And that's a big part of it. He and Coach Williams spend a lot of time together, and they go over coverages and they go over on certain plays where the ball should be going, and he's going to his check downs when he needs to go to his check downs. But, he's done a really good job of that. And then also you got to give Coach Williams some credit, with his play calling. He's done a good job of putting him in situations to where he has a lot of success.
Okay, let's talk a little bit, put in a wrap on the Granbury game. It was just kind of a weird atmosphere down there in Hood County. I mean, we got started early, like around 6:55, when it normally should be kicking off at 7, and then we had kind of a running clock, maybe a not running clock in the second half. Nobody could make up their mind what was going to happen on there. And then you were not very happy with the officiating. I'm not going to ask you to get on top of the officials too much because of the fact that we don't want to make that a big deal here. But it just felt so out of sorts the way that whole game was played from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, you go from playing a game like we did against Denton Ryan, where there was so much intensity, so much, focus on doing the little things right, and then you go over to Granbury and things just start kind of coming to you real easy, move the ball real easy, score touchdowns, in the defense, stopping them real easy. And then, you get a little laxed maybe as the kids, were out there, and it was very frustrating for me. I really don't like those games because, I get upset with, some of the things that are going on during the game. And, it's just, like you said, there just wasn't a real good feel to the game.
Yeah, there's no flow. It's kind of disjointed. There doesn't seem to be any kind of way to kind of keep things moving along that you normally would. And so it's kind of like you can't get a really good you can't really feel like, okay, we're doing this well, we're doing that not as well as we need to, that sort of thing. It's just kind of all over the place, scatter shooting, if you will.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it felt.
All right, let's talk about, obviously, Lamel Swanson is joining us here in a little bit, but he's been so sure-handed on punt returns, but we know how dangerous that can be. And when he came up through the program, I remember watching him in the 9th grade teams a couple of years ago when I was doing the PA at the stadium and was really intrigued by what he was doing at that time. But what sold you and the staff on being his this return specialist?
Because he did it at the sub-varsity levels. We saw that he would go out and field the balls, and we got a lot of confidence in him going and doing that. And he's out there early every morning, making sure that he's working on that skill. And we know that he's got sure hands. And then once he does catch the ball, then he does have the ability to go make a big play after he catches the football.
What does it take to be that particular type of player? Is it instinct? Is it fearlessness? Is it both? Or what do you think it really comes down?
A little bit of both. You got to have the instinct to go get the ball. A lot of those guys are guys, and I haven't even talked to Lamel about if he played baseball back when he was younger, but a lot of those guys were baseball players, and they just have the knack of, reading the ball and being able to go get the ball. And then you got to have some playmaking ability, which Lamel has. Lamel's played some offense for us in the past on some of the sub-varsity teams. And, if we didn't have a need for him at safety, he could have been a really good receiver for us.
Right.
So when you get a guy like that, the same with Jake last year. Jake, was definitely a defensive player, but he had skill enough to go play on the offense, which he did at his former school in Oklahoma. So, when you got a guy that's good enough to do both, go play offense or defense, a lot of times they tend to make good return guys as well.
And Lamel had the bragging rights over at Jake last year on the return for the touchdown, and Jake never forgave him for that either, too, which was kind of one of the funny stories as that season unfolded, too. He was like, I can't believe it, because he had the punt return. Jake had the punt return against South Hills where he got pushed out of bounds around the 7-yard line or something like that. And so, anyway, so let's kind of turn it over to this week's opponent with the Richland Royals. They're under the direction of Jed Cates, who actually played at Richland High School in the early 1990s. And to show you how old I am, I actually covered Jed when he was playing at Richland. A very explosive offense, What do you see from them? Because you got to watch them on Friday night against Granbury.
Yeah, they got some really, really fast receivers. They're very explosive out wide. Now they've lost their running back. Their running back, Michael Turner, is going to Baylor. They lost him after the second ball game, I believe it was, with a knee injury. So that's kind of, cut down a little bit on their run game. They still do a good job running the football, but they are going to sling the ball all over the field. They throw a lot of hitch screens, bubble screens, quick stuff out wide to those real quick, fast receivers, and then they'll take shots down the field. So, we got to do a really good job with the secondary. One of the reasons why I decided to bring Lamel with us today, because he's going to have to have a big game against these guys and slow down their passing attack. And then, defensively, they were a little bigger. Once we saw them in person, they were a little bigger than possibly what I thought they were on video. So they're definitely a really good football team, and we've been stressing to the guys, hey, this is a big-time game for us because we slip up, let these guys beat us. There's a good chance that we're not hosting a first-round playoff game because of the way the tiebreaker system goes. Denton Ryan beat these guys by more points than we beat Denton Ryan, and depending on the score of our game, if we let them beat us, then it goes, from the points, which Denton Ryan has the tiebreaker points out there, then it goes, if we're in it with Richland, it's head-to-head. So that would put us third seed.
Right.
And so, we don't want to put ourselves in that situation. So, we got to make sure that we don't have a slip-up in this game.
Let's talk about their offense further with Jed's son, Drew, the quarterback who runs this offense. He's a senior, appears to be very efficient. As you talked about all the screens, over 2,000 yards, passing 20 touchdowns, only throwing two interceptions. So what has made him so effective to kind of execute that offense as quickly and as efficiently as he has been able to this year?
I think it's just his familiarity with what they're doing. He's a returning starter. He's I don't remember how many yards he had last year, but he had a lot of yards last year. And then he's a coach's kid, so he gets a lot of coaching probably at home as well. So he knows what he's doing, and he does a really good job of it. And and if it's not there in the passing game, then he pulls it down and runs it with the football and does a really good job with that as well.
All right, so we talked about their explosiveness going over the top. They have two really good receivers. Xavier Johnson, who was committed to Memphis, was originally committed to SMU. He has over 800 yards this year. Deion Jones is the other top receiving target. He's over 500 yards. What challenge will they present to your secondary?
Just what I said a minute ago, the speed, and the Jones kid is really, really quick, so he can make you miss out in the open field. And then they got another receiver that is another deep threat, number 11. I can't remember his name, but
right.
But they've got guys all over the field that they can get the ball to. They, like I told the kids, they can score at any time. So we can't have a let up at any point on defense, because if we have a miscue, kind of like we did a couple of times in that Denton Ryan game, the first half, these guys can do the same thing. They can just go score, in one play.
Because of the fact that they don't have Michael Turner as their running back, as we have talked about, lost for the year for an apparent knee injury, what did that change for their running game, do you think?
They do a little bit more quarterback run stuff. So you see the quarterback running a little bit more than probably what they were doing when they had Turner.
Okay, so Turner's only played the first two games, as you mentioned. Let's switch real quickly to their defense. It looks opportunistic. They have forced 13 turnovers this year. What do they base from, and what will they try to do to force the issue on you?
Yeah, they're 3-4 base, but they'll also get in some 3-3 stack. They've got a very good secondary. That's one of the things that kind of stood out to us, was their secondary was a really good secondary, which is, could take away some of the passing options that we have. Excuse me. I'm dealing with a little allergies, maybe turning into a cold. I don't know. But then up front, they're going to play some heavy 4 eyes to try and take away the zone and try to make the ball bounce out to their outside linebackers. So, we've got some things that we think are going to be good that we maybe haven't shown as much this year that we're going to do as far as the run game is concerned. So, I expect a big challenge, on both sides of the ball. But I think if our offense goes out there and clicks the way they did the second half against Ryan, then we're going to be in good shape.
In that case, too, it would be a case where your running game established that, get that going. If it's as effective as it was against Ryan, in this coming Friday, I'm sure you would like your chances on that.
Yeah, I really like our chances. That's one of the reasons why we've always been a heavy, hey, let's lean on this offensive line. Let's go get the run game going. And then once you get that run game going, it opens up the passing game. And we've passed a little bit more this year. And the passing game, with the fact that we do have really good receivers, it makes people think, well, we can't just go in and try to stop the run. We got to take care of the pass as well. So, I think our offense has been really balanced this year, and it's going to give people a lot of problems.
The fact that, just touching on Ray real quick, the fact that, he had the most number of carries that he had against Ryan a couple of weeks ago, but you've had games where he's only had it 5, maybe 7, maybe 8 or whatever. I would think that as we're getting deeper into the season, that's going to be to his benefit and to your offense's benefit because – to use a phrase, not as much wear and tear off the tires,
right.
and that you got them fresher as you go deeper into the season.
Yeah, and it's by design a little bit, but then it's also the quarterback taking what they're giving us as far as the RPO game is concerned.
Right.
So there's been, like I mentioned earlier, the last touchdown that Caden had, it was actually a run play, but we took the RPO because it was given to us. So, with the RPO game, you're going to see that the running backs don't get as many carries. But, when we went into that Ryan game, I actually told the running backs coach as well as Coach Evans and then Coach Williams, I'd say, hey, we need to lean on Ray a little bit more in this game than what we had been. And he had a really big game. And that's what I thought would happen if we did lean on him a little bit more. And when we get deeper and deeper into the playoffs or even a game like this, you might see us say, hey, look, we're going to give the ball to Ray a little bit more because we got to have that run game going.
All right. One thing, though, which is kind of an extension of your running game has been that little flip pass that you guys have run a lot this year. You did it a lot with Blake Burdine early in the season. You've used Caden a couple times here. What's the advantage of using a play like that?
I mean, you're getting the ball to those guys, and you're letting those guys get involved in basically the run game. It's technically a pass because we're flipping it forward, but it gets other guys involved in the run game besides just your running back, And then I don't know if you've seen this, but Ray does a really good job blocking on those.
Oh, yeah.
So we get some good blocking out of him as well as Winkfield, and that's one of the great things that we have is, we've got – 3 running backs that we can use, and Winkfield has done a really good job when he's in there as well.
Mm-hmm. And you've had Brady Powell, who's done some really good work for you, too. There's been a couple of nights where just because of the way the game's unfolded, he turned out to be the leading rusher just because of how things ended up.
Yeah, because, early on we were kind of splitting the carries between Ray and Winkfield, and when you do that and then you get up big on somebody and then you put your third or fourth running back in there, they're going to get more carries, which is kind of what's happened in some of the games.
And I would imagine now that it feels like, since we're back into game week prep, that it feels like a normal week. Or did it take a little bit of a kind of a slow, here we go, and then now we're kind of getting into the flow? How are things going as far as just a normal game week coming off the bye?
Yeah, I mean, we had kind of a normal Monday today where, it gets better as the week goes on. Mm-hmm. And you got to remind yourself that as the coach, you get out there on Monday and you're wanting everything to be perfect, but it's not going to be perfect on Monday. But, yeah, I mean, I think the kids handled it well this morning. They got back into the routine. And then, of course, tomorrow, we're wanting to be better tomorrow than we were today.
Sure. And it's always kind of like where coaches always like to say, let's play to our standard. But it's always kind of like the dangling carrot. You're always chasing it. You're never going to catch it because if you catch it, then there's nowhere else to go. And so
yeah, I mean, we're always striving for perfection, and that's what we tell the kids. We want to be perfect, but we're not always going to be that way, but we're going to strive to be that way. And if you work on trying to be perfect, then you're going to be a lot better than you were if you're not.
All right, game number 8 coming up this Friday. Coach, thanks for the time.
I appreciate it.
All right. And we want to remind you that the Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And we're also brought to you by Hiley Mazda. Looking for a new ride, Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth has you covered. Right now, get $3,500 off MSRP or 0% interest for 36 months on the 5-star safety rated CX5 and CX30. Hurry in, these offers won't last long. Experience top-notch service and unbeatable deals in their new state-of-the-art facility in Fort Worth, or check out their extensive Mazda lineup at HileyMazdaofFortWorth.com. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for more than 30 years. Stick around on the second phase of this podcast. We'll have Ray Gullory and Lamel Swanson joining us. You're listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. Back after this timeout. High end over end, and it is going to be returned. Fuller on the far side of the field trying to avoid a tackler, gets across the 10, tries to slip across. Now he takes it outside the numbers, runs to the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, with an open field in front of him. Get a block in front of him, young man, to the 30. It'll be 100 if he can get this block from Hollister, which he turns inside and scores. That was the 100-yard kickoff return from Adrian Fuller 2 weeks ago against Denton Ryan. Of course, that really kind of spearheaded the Bearcats' comeback. They were down at one point 27-8. That kickoff return made it 27-14, and then the Bearcats were on that run of 34 unanswered points to win this game by a score of 42-27. So the Bearcats in the driver's seat. We welcome you back to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast here on 92.1 Hank FM. We're coming to you from Blue Rays of New Orleans in Hudson Oaks. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Starting our second segment, of course, we will always do the Aledo Alumni Report. So we will tell you about, first of all, Jace McClelland, the running back for the Atlanta Falcons, finally saw his first action in the NFL yesterday against the Seattle Seahawks. 5 carries, 17 yards. Unfortunately, didn't work out for the Falcons. They lost to the Seahawks by a score of 34-14. And then former quarterback Braden Fowler Nicolosi went threw for 178 yards and a touchdown in the Rams' 21-13 victory at Air Force on Saturday. And the Rams are now 4-3 overall and 2-0 in the Mountain West Conference, and they are in the battle for that championship game. They're a long way to go for us in that season, but nice start for Jace finally to get him off the bench and finally going, because he has been the third running back for the Falcons this year. But nice to see him get into the action. Okay, now we are joined finally. To my left is national recruit and running back Ray Gullory, and then to my far left is safety Lamel Swanson. Both of these gentlemen are juniors, so the good news is that we get to see them at least one more year, or at least a few more games this year, maybe 9 more games, because we've only played 7 and you got to play 16, so maybe 9 more, maybe. What do we think? Would that work for you guys if we played 9 more?
Yeah, we're going to get 9 more.
All right, we're going to get 9 more. All right, gotcha. So for this year, Ray Gullory has rushed for 735 yards, 13 touchdowns. He's averaged 7.6 yards per carry. He's been slowly working his way into the receiving game, 5 catches, 64 yards. He had that yard ball touchdown against Denton Ryan. We'll get to that play here in just a few moments. Now, for Lamel Swanson, 18 total tackles out of his safety position. He also has a fumble recovery as well as falling on a onside kick. For the year, punt return-wise, he has returned 10, averaging 15.7 yards per return. That was actually unfortunately coming down because of the fact that he had so many that were in the 20 to 30 range. Your longest 36, but because the fact that it's kind of happened that way, that it's kind of slowed up. That's okay, 15.7. Everyone will take 15.7 yards a return. But Ray, let's just start with you, just getting back and running for it. Of course, you had the knee injury going into the offseason. Tell me about the difference where you are now physically from the opener against Denton Guyer to where you are now as you are getting ready for Richland on Friday.
I started off I was babying my leg a little bit. I wasn't just able to cut how I wanted to, just run fast how I wanted to at the beginning of the season. And actually, I just got started getting comfortable doing more rehab behind the scenes, felt the leg getting a little stronger, and then everything just started rolling.
Was there a run during maybe practice or maybe in one of the games, could have been Lancaster, could have been whoever, that kind of gives you that confidence in knowing that I'm back, I've got it? Because it seems like it happens with every athlete that once you do it instinctively and your knee responds the way you hope it does, it's like, I'm back. Was there a run like that you can recall?
I'm going to say the Lancaster Monday practice. It was like just bouncing back from that L, and just my mindset just changed from trying to baby my leg to let's go get a W. And I say that whole week I feel good at practice, running fast and everything. So I say that what brought it back.
Just take everyone through your process, because we saw obviously the unfortunate injury against Abilene in the regional semifinals last year, and just what was this process like of just from that game coming all the way back for you? What did you learn about yourself in that recovery process?
That process, I learned patience. Patience is key. Not being able to play 7-on-7, not being able to just be active like I usually would be. it was just hard. You know, it was dark days. I felt depressed sometimes. You know, just couldn't be a kid. I had to stay in the house, do rehab, go home. It was like boring. Everybody else playing basketball.
Right.
Sitting at bed, icing like. So I say just being patient, knowing that it was gonna heal up in time, and so just I say patience. That's what really I just learned through the whole process. Just sitting back, letting know God got me through it.
So the game against Ryan, and you talked about Lancaster, so maybe in those two games where you were used extensively, what was that like for you just getting back there, knowing that you were going to get hit on it and that you were going to be able to just go through? But what did those games mean to you in terms of just durability, endurance, things like that, and then just grinding through a game? What did that mean for you?
I say them games was like, I say the first half, I was really just trying to figure out the team, like figure out how they gonna tackle me, how hard the D-line was coming, how hard the linebacker was coming downhill. And like just the first half was just me feeling the game, and the second half is when I'm gonna bring in my all just to finish them off. All
right, I'll continue with your offense here in just a few moments. I'll bring in Lamel here for a moment. Lamel, let's talk about these big plays in the return game. We were kind of making fun of Jake Gillespie in the previous segment about the return for the touchdown that you had against the Colony, but I guess I'm going to ask you the basic question: why do you like to catch punts?
It's kind of nerve-wracking back there, but once you catch it, it's fine. You just score. I love scoring, but I haven't scored this year yet. But hopefully I get one, and it's just when you get it, it's just fun. Just get the ball and go.
Now, there's an art to this because you have to kind of look at where you're downfield, because this is kind of like you're kind of like defenseless in some respect because you got a horde of people coming after you that want to knock you out, but then you got to catch the football. So it's kind of like you're multitasking here in these split seconds. So what's that like processing, knowing that the ball's coming toward you? You got tacklers, would-be tacklers coming after you. And you got to, first of all, you got to catch that thing, and then you got to try and make a move. So what's that been like for you? Now, sometimes the punt will outkick the coverage, but in most respect, how do you make that judgment and that sort of thing through that sequence?
Sometimes I see the defense, see them in my peripheral vision, but most of the time I hear my special team coach yelling, catch it or fair catch it, or I got room. And most of the times when I hear that, it helps me out a lot, and it's fair catching or just go.
So for you, in cases where if it's a punt that's kind of bouncing around and you pick it up on a hop, what tells you to say leave it alone or pick it up and go with it? What do you see there to make that decision?
The defender, if he's high up or if he's ready to tackle me, most of them have been high up, and I just be able to bounce around them and get 20, 15 yards.
Okay, so now you move in at safety this year on a full-time basis. You played some last year, of course. And what did that experience last year during that run to the state championship? Heck, you get 16 games out of it, but what did that help you in terms of the transition? Because it's going to start in January, of course, but what did that help you in the transition this year, getting ready for this, going through this season and feeling comfortable game in and game out?
I played receiver a little bit last year in the playoffs, and it helped me get the feel of the game, how fast it is. The speed from playing JV or freshman is way different from varsity, and I had to get the feel of that. And be able to play those 6 games were a great feeling.
Okay, so in terms of all that, so moving over to defense, what's the difference in terms of obviously you're in the same spot as the receivers were what you were last year, but what did that mean for you in just making that transition? Was it easy to make that flip from offense to defense this year?
I think it was pretty easy. I was playing defense through freshman year and sophomore year, and it was just the playoffs that I played receiver. So playing defense was really in my mind the whole time at Aledo. So it was pretty easy to come play safety the whole time.
Fumble return, you also covered an onside kick. What's the instinct about just being able to force a turnover, change the complexity of a game? Is it something that you're seeing the way the ball is being carried? Is it something is it vision? What do you see there in terms of being able to make, at least from the fumble perspective, that sort of thing?
Creating turnovers help the offense, and we love helping the offense because they score points for us. So we just got to make sure we stop them, create turnovers, and when we create turnovers, we win games.
All right, so back to you, Ray. We mentioned to you about the receiving game. Last year, everyone might remember your first play as an Aledo Bearcat, 75 yards of the opener against Parish Episcopal. This year, a little bit of a slower start because they wanted to make sure that the knee was ready to go. Five catches for 64 yards, as we mentioned, but of course the crazy yard ball touchdown against Ryan. So I remember you telling Mercedes in the postgame show what you saw, but for those who didn't hear it, just take us through that play, what you saw, because you were kind of sticking with Gavin there for a little bit, and then you were kind of stuck with him. So just kind of take us from snap to where he was able to just kind of flip it to you.
So basically, I had got a call to go out on a route, and so I just noticed that the linebacker, like nobody was over there on the right side. So I grabbed his arm and I told him, I'm like, bro, if nobody come, throw me the ball. And so after I did that, he said Hud, I seen the linebacker like just shoot out somewhere else. Mm-hmm. I replaced him, went to the sideline, sat for a little bit, see Gavin scrambling out. He tossed the ball, like he fake tossed it. So I'm like, oh my God, bro. And then I see him toss it again. And then the ball that came to my hand, and I was just like, gotta go make a play.
Yeah, and you did, because you were going right across the field. You went diagonally. You went from the Aledo sideline all the way over to the front left corner of the end zone on the Ryan side. So and that was a foot race. But I would imagine, too, maybe another reassuring thing for you, because that's a foot speed thing, and they've got some guys in the back there that can run, in their secondary that can run. So the fact that you made that play, what did that mean? Not obviously scoring was huge, but what did that mean just for you, and just, again, another reaffirmation thing that you're back?
Basically, I mean, I knew I was going to outrun them to the opposite side because I'm on the right side. So they got to use all their speed to shoot all the way over here. So if I just replace them, it's hard for somebody to stop on a dime to spin back around. And so I was just using that as my advantage, just making them try to spin around and get me. And I know I got a little speed left to make it over there.
All right, you're not an old man yet. So, all right, so let's talk. Okay, so back to you, Lamel. Obviously, we talked about this secondary being new. But with that defensive front as menacing as it's been so far, what has that meant for you guys, just settling in, playing your positions so that there's not as much there's always going to be pressure, of course, but what has that defensive line meant to you guys just settling in this year?
The defensive line has helped us a lot. We have 4 new starters back there in the defensive backs, and with them in front, just creating pressure for the quarterback, making him think more, give us just a little bit second time just to create a play, break the ball up, and helps us a lot.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Richland. Of course, the Royals are coming in with a record of 7-1. They've already clinched a playoff spot like yourselves. But again, as Coach Jones talked about, important, because if you guys win this, you still got work to do, but it puts you in a really good position to win the district championship. So let's talk about them from an offensive standpoint. We'll start with you, Lamel. 2 really explosive receivers in Jones as well as Xavier. What is the challenge that those 2 present, and what are you guys going to have to do to kind of limit them to some extent?
They're both track athletes. They're fast, so they love creating space for them outside. So we have to make sure we contain them, tackle them, and make sure they don't get the ball in their hands.
They like to do a lot of things in space. It would sound like just kind of, as Coach Jones talked about, some hitch screens here, maybe 5-yard outs, and then kind of let them do their thing. But if they do that, if they're going to try and go over the top, what do you guys have to look for in terms of making sure that you guys can stay on top of that?
We just have to play our zone, make sure they're not crossing our faces, make sure they're not getting behind us. We can make tackles, but we can't let them get behind us. If they get behind us, a touchdown. Okay, and then Ray, for you, this could be a game where we might see a little bit more of you carrying the football against Richland. What's going to be the key for you in terms of just what you guys can do on offense? Because I would imagine it's going to be typical Aledo. Let's establish the running game first. But what do you see there from their defense? I see they got some nice little linebackers on their team. Special D line. I see they like to tackle low, so I see I'm probably going to go crazy on them a little bit. But if they try to just key in on me, I mean, we got 4 different people ready to catch the ball. We got Caden Finley, we got Lincoln Tubbs, we got Jamal, we got Squishy. We got a lot of people that's able to make plays, so just trying to key in on one person is going to be hard for them. Okay. And so I think we're going to have a great ball game. Well, you said something, too, about I want to go back to the play with the Ryan, the yard ball play, and just your play with Gavin, your communication with him on that play. What's that been like working with him? Because obviously you worked with Hoss Haney last year. So what was that like getting in sync with Gavin in the offseason? Of course, you really didn't have much of an offseason because of your injury, but what's that been like just getting to know him playing and play out now since we're so deep into the season? Getting to know Gavin, it's been a great little experience. He a different kind of different quarterback. I say he's not very a runner like Hoss, and so him being able just to use his arm and his thinking against the defense is just different. He a great guy on and off the field. Getting to know him, he kind of like, I know this might sound crazy, but he like one of us. Like he
he not weird. He like he actually a cool guy. Like he listen to hip hop and everything. Y'all might. So it really wasn't hard.
All right, so let's go into recruiting. Of course, Ray, you're obviously one of the top recruits in the country here. You were committed to Texas for a time. You reopened over the summer. You're still getting offers. Utah and Missouri recently, I believe. And so just kind of where are you at now with the recruiting situation? There's a lot to digest, but just kind of bring everybody up to date as to where you're at.
Right now, I mean, I'm thinking about dropping the top 10 just to narrow it down, you know, stop my phone from ringing a lot. But honestly, I'm just trying to find a home, like a place that's got a great offensive coordinator, run the ball, great offensive line, somewhere that I'm comfortable at. And I've been going to a lot of schools recently and seeing that, like, and I got a couple of visits coming up, so I'll be able to just narrow that list down even more.
Okay, so and you said that you were at Texas, Georgia this past Saturday. Then you are planning to go to the Big House, Michigan, when they play Michigan State this coming Saturday. Any other visits that you think you have planned at this point?
I'll be going to Georgia one of these days. It's like in November 16th.
Okay.
And then the rest of them, I'm just planning as I go.
Okay, gotcha on that. And then you were talking about your top 10. When do you think you might release that?
I'm still waiting on Haynes to hit me back, and then we're gonna set a date. So I'll probably say end of November or something like that.
Okay, gotcha on that. Okay, and then for you, Lamel, different story. I mean, obviously the recruiting process is new for you, and you're getting some looks, some discussions. I think you mentioned Colorado State to me over the before we went on the air. So what's that experience been like talking to these coaches, just kind of understanding what it is that they're looking at and what do you need to show them, and how aggressive are you trying to get your film out to coaches and things like that so that they can be aware of you and say, hey, we need to look at this guy more?
I'm very aggressive. My plan in life is just to play football. I love football, and just have to get my name out there and make plays so my name is out there, and so coaches come see me and hopefully just offer me.
Okay, so what's the discussion with the Colorado State coaches been like? What have they said to you? What have they shown you? That sort of thing.
They've shown a lot of love to me, saying that I'm on their board and that they want to see me play in real life and see how I am in real life. So they like my film, but I just have to show them in real life. And they're coming to Richland.
Okay, so they're coming for the Richland game. Okay, by the way, any coaches coming to see you for the Richland game that you're aware of?
I don't need to know.
I was going to say, well, if they don't know you by now, then they never will. And so, in terms of just this season so far, guys, of course, we had the stumbling block in the opener against Geyer, but since then, 6 in a row. Has there been anything about this season that has gone the way you thought, minus the Geyer outcome, but that you feel like, how has the season gone for you guys? We'll talk about you specifically, Lamel.
I feel like it started off a little rocky with Geyer. Obviously, losing isn't the best feeling. But I feel like we gained confidence from that. As a 6A team, a powerhouse, and we still stuck with them, but we should have beat them. But, I mean, things go how they go. And I feel like we've stuck together throughout the whole season. Den Ryan, we came back from like a 13, 14-point deficit, and it was just a great – we're coming together. It's going to be great.
All right, and then for you, Ray, what has it been like? I mean, again, your personal season, slow start, but now it's kind of finding this rhythm. But overall, what's the season been like?
This season been a great season. I don't really got too much tear on my body from getting hit all the time, so I'd say it's been great. And just everybody just keying in on one thing, one goal. And I'd say that's special about this team, losing a lot of starters from last year. I'd say this team is just – like football players. Everybody want to play football. Everybody want to be a Bearcat. So,
okay. All right, sounds good, guys. All right, listen. To my immediate left is Ray Gullory. To my far left is Lamel Swanson. Give it up for these two young men. Thank you. And we want to remind you that this podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. They have you covered right now. Get $3,500 off MSRP or 0% interest for 36 months on the 5-star safety-rated CX5 and CX30. Hurry in, these offers won't last long. Experience top-notch service and unbeatable deals in their new state-of-the-art facility in Fort Worth, or check out their extensive Mazda lineup at HileyMazdaofFortWorth.com. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for more than 30 years. Don't forget the Bearcats will continue their season back from the bye this coming Friday night over at Tim Buchanan Stadium in Eastern Parker County against the Richland Royals. We will have the coverage for you on Hank FM starting at 6:30. Then the kickoff with the Bearcats and the Royals will be at 7 o'clock. And we will be back here next week talking about how that Richland game went, hopefully a win. And then we'll get ready for the final road game of the year in the regular season. That will be against the Azle Hornets. So for Coach Robby Jones and for Ray Gullory and Lamel Swanson, I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Thanks for joining us here at Boo Rays of New Orleans and Hudson Oaks. We'll talk to you next week. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, with Bearcats head coach Robby Jones and the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 from Boo Rays of New Orleans in Hudson Oaks. And then listen to every Aledo Bearcats game, home and away, live on Real Country 92.1 Hank FM, on the free 92.1 Hank FM app, or online at 921hankfm.com.